Good day everyone, I am Roselyn esureña and today I'm going to tackle about statistical analysis since it is required to determine the reliability of a measure. But first, what is correlation? So ano nga ba ang correlation? Ang correlation ay ginagamit upang malaman kung may relationship sa dalawa o higit pang variables. So the very basis of statistical analysis to determine reliability of a measure is through the use of linear regression. So linear regression is demonstrated when you have two variables that are measured, such as two sets of scores in a test taken at two different times by the same participants. When the two scores are plotted in a graph with x and y axis, they tend to form a straight line. The straight line formed for the two sets of scores can produce a linear regression. So when a straight line is formed, we can say that there is a correlation between the two sets of scores. Let's say for example, we have here two sets of scores. For x, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And for y, we have 2, 4, 7, 9, 12, and 14. And if we're going to plot it in a graph with x and y axis, this is how it will look like. So makikita nyo na it form a straight line. And by looking at this graph, we can say that there is a correlation doon sa given na two sets of scores. And this graph is called a scatter plot. Kada point or dot na makikita nyo sa scatter plot is a respondent with two scores, which is one for each test. So let's proceed for the computation of correlation, particularly ng persons R. So the index of the linear regression is called a correlation coefficient. When the points in the scatter plot tend to fall within the linear line, the correlation is said to be strong. When the direction of the scatter plot is directly proportional, the correlation coefficient will have a positive value. If the line is inverse, the correlation coefficient will have a negative value. Ang statistical analysis na ginagamit upang ma-determine ang correlation coefficient is called the person R. So, paano nga ba na-obtain itong person R? So, we have here a sample situation. Suppose that a teacher gave the spelling of two-syllable words with 20 items per Monday and Tuesday. And the teacher wanted to determine the reliability of two sets of scores by computing for the persons R. So, bago yun, narito muna ang formula na gagamitin natin in computing. So, R is equal to N times sum of xy minus sum of x times sum of y divided by square root of N times sum of x squared minus sum of x and squared times n times sum of y squared minus sum of y and squared. So here's the given two sets of scores per Monday and Tuesday test. So let's do the step-by-step process in computing the persons R correlation. The first thing that we need to do is to square the value of the x scores or the Monday scores. So 10 times 10 is equal to 100, 9 times 9 is equal to 81, 6 times 6 is equal to 36, 10 times 10 is equal to 100, 12 times 12 is equal to 144, 4 times 4 is equal to 16, 5 times 5 is equal to 25, 7 times 7 is equal to 49, 16 times 16 is equal to 256, and last, 8 times 8 is equal to 64. Next is we're going to compute or square the values of the y scores or the Tuesday scores. We have 20 times 20 is equal to 400, 15 times 15 is equal to 225, 12 times 12 is equal to 144, 18 times 18 is equal to 324, 19 times 19 is equal to 361, 8 times 8 is equal to 64. 7 times 7 is equal to 49. 10 times 10 is equal to 100. 17 times 17 is equal to 289. 13 times 13 is equal to 169. Next, we're going to multiply the x and y scores. So 10 times 20 is equal to 200. 9 times 15 is equal to 135. 6 times 12 is equal to 72. 10 times 18 is equal to 180. 12 times 19 is equal to 228. 4 times 8 is equal to 32. 5 times 7 is equal to 35. 7 times 10 is equal to 70. 16 times 17 is equal to 272. And last, 8 times 13 is equal to 104. Then, we were going to add all the x scores for Monday test. So we have sum of x is equal to 87. Also, we were going to add all the y scores for Tuesday test. So we have sum of y is equal to 139. And for the sum of all the squared values of x, we have sum of x squared is equal to 871. For the sum of all squared values of y, we have sum of y squared is equal to 2125. For the sum of all the product of x and y, we have sum of xy is equal to 1328. Lastly, for the substitution of values in formula, we have r is equal to 10 times 1328 minus 87 times 139 divided by square root of 10 times 871 minus 87 and squared times 10 times 2125 minus 139 and squared. So we get r is equal to 0.80. So the result is r is equal to 0.80. So the value of correlation coefficient does not exceed 1 or negative 1. So it indicates perfect correlation. Sa test na to, we aim for high positive correlation to mean that there is consistency in the way the students answered the test taken. So, in the difference between a positive and negative correlation, so paano nga ba natin ma-differentiate itong dalawa? So, when the value of the correlation coefficient is positive, ibig sabihin, pag tumataas ang score sa x, tumataas din ang score sa y. Kapag naman, ang correlation coefficient is negative, ibig sabihin, the higher the score in x, the lower the scores in y and vice versa. Sa case ng two spelling scores na ginawa natin, doon sa pag-compute natin ng person R to get the correlation coefficient, we obtain a positive correlation. So when the same test is administered to the same group of participants, usually, ang positive correlation po, it indicates reliability or consistency of the scores. So, pagdating naman sa pagdetermine ng strength of a correlation, ang strength ng correlation indicates the strength of a reliability test. So, this is indicated by the value of the correlation coefficient. Ibig sabihin, pag malapit sa value na 1 or negative 1, the stronger the correlation. Kapag naman malapit sa 0, ibig sabihin, weak ang correlation ng variables. So, here's the guide. 0.8 to 1, very strong relationship. 0.6 to 0.79, strong relationship. 0.40 to 0.59, substantial or marked relationship. 0.2 to 0.39, weak relationship. And 0 to 0.19, negligible relationship. Lastly, determining the significance of the correlation. So the correlation obtained between two variables could be due to chance. In order to determine if the correlation is free of certain errors, it is tested for significance. When a correlation is significant, it means that the probability for the two variables being related is free of certain errors. In order to determine if a correlation coefficient value is significant, it is compared with an expected probability of correlation coefficient values called critical value. When the value computed is greater than the critical value, it means that the information obtained has more than 95% chance of being correlated and is significant. So another statistical analysis mentioned to determine the internal consistency of the test is the crunchback alpha. We have here a sample situation. Suppose that 5 students answered a checklist about their hygiene with scale of 1 to 5, wherein the following are the corresponding scores: 5 always, 4 often, 3 sometimes, 2 rarely, 1 never. The first thing that we need to do is to get the total for each item. So we have 14 for item 1, 21 for item 2, 16 for item 3, 17 for item 4, and 13 for item 5. Next, we're going to compute for the total of each case. So we have 19 for student A, 15 for student B, 16 for student C, 13 for student D, 18 for student E. Next, we're going to get the mean for the total for each case. So 19 plus 15 plus 16 plus 13 plus 18 is equal to 81 divided by 5 is equal to 16.2. Next, we're going to get the score minus mean. So 19 minus 16.2 is equal to 2.8. 15 minus 16.2 is equal to negative 1.2. 16 minus 16.2 is equal to negative 0.2. 13 minus 16.2 is equal to negative 3.2. 18 minus 16.2 is equal to 1.8. Next, we're going to square the score minus mean. So 2.8 times 2.8 is equal to 7.84. Negative 1.2 times negative 1.2 is equal to 1.44. Negative 0.2 times negative 0.2 is equal to 0.04. Negative 3.2 times negative 3.2 is equal to 10.24. 1.8 times 1.8 is equal to 3.24. Also, the sum of score minus mean squared is equal to 22.8. Next, we were going to substitute all the values in the formula. So 5 divided by 5 minus 1 times 5.7 minus 5.2 divided by 5.7 is equal to 0.10. The internal consistency of the responses in the attitude toward teaching is 0.10, indicating low internal consistency. The consistency of ratings can also be obtained using a coefficient of concordance. The Kendall's W coefficient of concordance is used to test the agreement among raters. Here's a performance task demonstrated by 5 students, rated by 3 raters. The rubric used to scale of 1 to 4, wherein 4 is the highest and 1 is the lowest. The scores given by the 3 raters are first computed by summing up the total ratings for each demonstration. The mean is obtained for the sum of ratings. X sub-ratings is equal to 8.4. The mean is subtracted from each of the sum of ratings D. Each difference is squared. Then the sum of squares is computed, or sum D squared is equal to 33.2. The mean and summation of squared difference is substituted in the Kendall's W formula. In the formula, M is the numbers of raters. W is equal to 12 times summation of D squared over M squared times N squared minus 1 is equal to 12 times 33.2 divided by 3 squared times 5 times 5 squared minus 1 is equal to 0.37. A Kendall's W coefficient value of 0.38 indicates the agreement of the three raters in the 5 demonstrations. There is moderate concordance among the three raters because the value is far from 1.0.